If this summer you could come alive again? My new book is almost here. Peace is more expensive than lobster, a wake-up call with lipstick. And over the next 7 weeks, I want to take you on the journey with me. On Tuesday is a special wake-up call with lipstick podcast inspired by one of the chapters of the book. Wednesday at noon, we gather together for conversation, co-working, and encouragement. Throughout the week, we'll keep the discussion going in Pink Lady Posse, pull a few friction cards, and share surprises along the way. Then on Saturday morning, we come together for Think Pink. I'd love to spend a summer with you. Let's go. Hello, everybody. I am Sandy Parker Martinez, and welcome to a wake-up call with lipstick. And this week, we have a cool lesson from lipstick. But I want to start out with some of the questions we had from last week. I love the questions that come in because they really make it feel real, what we're learning. So the question is, Sandy, what if I don't even know what I want anymore? I love this question because I think there are a lot of women who could answer, I don't know either. Not because something's wrong with us, but because for a very long time, the question may have been, what do the kids need? What does my husband need? What does my job need? What does my mother need? What does everybody need? And after years of unanswering those questions, somebody says, what do you want? It's not uncommon to freeze and go, fill in the blank. So don't make figuring out what I want another assignment. Start tiny. What do I want for lunch? Where do I actually want to go? Which chair do I want to sit in? What red lipstick or the pink? Do I want an evening with everybody or just by myself? You don't really have to figure out what you want to do with the rest of your life, but what you can do is start exercising those muscles, asking yourself what you really want. What would be the best for me right now? Because every time you notice a preference and let yourself have it, you're practicing having your say. And maybe that's how we begin to hear ourselves again. Love the question. Thank you. Question 2, what if what I want feels selfish? Oh boy, here we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Because I think a lot of women have an internal alarm that goes off the minute we want something and we say just because we want it. It doesn't have to be practical. It doesn't have to be what somebody else wants. And it doesn't have to benefit anyone else but you. Not because we've earned it, just because we want it. And immediately, is that selfish? Well, sometimes what we want is selfish, and we still have responsibilities, and other people still matter, and consequences matter. But something doesn't automatically make you selfish just because you want it. Think of wanting as information. And sometimes we skip right over that. We go from, I want this, to, I shouldn't want this, as an automatic compliance to something before we even had a chance to consider it. That's where the lobster story comes in. And I wasn't deciding whether to abandon my family and run away to Tahiti. I was just ordering dinner and I wanted the lobster. But I still managed to turn that desire into a moral dilemma about myself. Should I? Shouldn't I? It's expensive. It's market price. Almost missed the whole dinner arguing with myself over what I wanted. So when I say that's selfish, well, don't believe it. Just get curious and say, is it really? Or I'm just uncomfortable giving my own desire a seat at the table. You don't have to automatically get what you want, but knowing what you want is having your say. I say this all the time. I get a say in how my life goes. And if I want something, I can want it. There's no harm, no foul. And sometimes just giving myself permission to choose it, well, that brings us back to the lobster. Okay, Question three. What if I see friction, but I'm still afraid to choose differently? Well, then you're afraid. Nothing wrong with that. And it helps if you see it. And you do have a say in how your life goes. So, two things can exist at the same time. I think sometimes we think that if we're really grown, really healed, really figured ourselves out, we'll suddenly feel completely confident. No wobble, no fear, no second guessing. I don't think that's how it works. Seeing friction doesn't magically remove it, it just gives you a little space around it. So before your fear says, don't do it, and then you automatically don't, you could still hear, don't do it, and say, oh, there you are, recognize it, and still decide. And maybe you don't do it. There's still a choice. And when you're ready, you'll choose it. That's why I keep saying, see the drag, return to your say. Not see the drag and become fearless. Having a say doesn't mean you don't have fear. It just means the choice becomes available to you again. And until you see what's holding you back, you don't have access to it anyway. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do isn't making a dramatic new choice, it's just realizing I could. And when you're ready, you choose. That's your say. Okay. I'm excited about this week's lesson because, first of all, I love lipstick. I've loved lipstick since I was a little girl. And there was just something about putting it on. So when I'm ready to go somewhere, I put on my lipstick and go, which is kind of the point of the whole story. And I have to tell you, I have a picture I totally love. It's a little girl wearing lipstick. I mean, wearing may be generous because it is on her lips, it is on her face. It's a mess. And she is so proud of herself. She's looking right into the camera like, look at me now. Look at that face. She thinks she's fabulous. This is what strikes me about her. She hasn't yet learned to second guess herself. She hasn't learned to turn off her delight. She isn't looking in the mirror and thinking, is that too much? Is it the right color for me? What will somebody think? Until they run into a parent. I have a funny story about my own daughter, and we love to go get makeup and go get facials and go just do girly stuff. And we love to do makeup. And I have this series of photographs of her where she's starting to put on the makeup, and then she's putting on the makeup, and then she's on the lipstick, and now it's all over her face. And I said, oh my gosh, go wash that off. The fourth picture is her having washed off that lipstick with the saddest face I've ever seen. It was a disaster. Her delight was spoiled. And now I wish I could go back and say, you wear that lipstick, girl. You just put it on. So she doesn't have to learn to collect evidence against herself. She hasn't learned to take a signal, something that happened, something someone said, something she noticed about herself, and turn it into her identity. She's just standing there thinking, look at me. And I want to be a stand for her, for that little girl and all of us. And I really don't care whether you wear lipstick or not, but I want to be the stand for you that hasn't learned to stop your own delight. Because somewhere between her and us, a lot happens. Do you remember your first lipstick? I was reading yesterday, women in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, there's 10 million of us that were alive in the times where they have makeup parties and beauty, hosting beauty parties in your home. I remember that little teeny a sample of lipstick. And I thought having that lipstick was the best. I thought they might tell me about colors or brands, but they gave me memories. When I talk to women about their first recollection of lipstick, it's often a memory. They remember their mother, she wore this color, or they remember her aunt and she said, no girls wear red, or they were a tomboy and they didn't even like lipstick. But somewhere in our youth, lipstick entered the scene. Those little tubes of lipstick, you know, memories are baked in us. So much so that we're still living with them. And I know a lot of women that still live in rules about wearing shoes after what season, wearing what color of lipstick, doing this and doing that that's appropriate. I'm a stand for the days when we don't compare ourselves to each other. We just let ourselves alone. Lipstick has traveled with us a long time, and not just lipstick. It's mom, your girlfriend, the makeup counter, trying something on, getting ready for prom, or just being a woman. And lipstick has changed along with us through the years. For women in our generation, lipstick meant different things. There was a time when putting on your lipstick meant getting ready, put yourself together. You put on your lipstick and out the door you go. For some women, it's glamour. For some, femininity. For some, professionalism. And for some, it felt like another expectation about how a woman was supposed to look. And other women rejected that completely. But here we are now, 50, 60, 70, and it's just not our age. Every woman has dealt with comparison or living under expectations that we inherited. So lipstick gets to mean something new now. It doesn't mean I should. Maybe we can let it mean I choose. I choose red. I love red lipstick. Some people choose pink. Some people choose lip gloss. Some people don't wear lipstick at all. Sequins, sweatpants, whatever. The point isn't lipstick. The point is who gets to say. And somewhere along the way, we didn't just learn how to put on lipstick correctly. We learned how to correct ourselves, debate ourselves, justify joy, negotiate worthiness, ask permission. Do I really need that? Should I spend the money? What will people think? Is that appropriate for my age? Am I being selfish? Maybe I should just be grateful. Or who do I think I am? And sometimes we get so accustomed to that conversation, we don't even realize we're having it. That's friction. Friction is what gets between you and your forward motion. Sometimes it's really big. Often it's incredibly ordinary, a hesitation, an old rule, an expectation. Somebody else's opinion moved into our head 20 years ago and maybe never left. So, a story you've been telling yourself for so long that it sounds like the truth, that tiny moment between I want to and yeah, but that's friction. That's why I call this a wake up call with lipstick, because wake up call is the invitation. Just wake up, notice, see what's creating the drag, see what's making you hesitate, see what's making you question something you knew 5 seconds ago. See the drag. That's the practice. Not fixing yourself, not judging yourself. Just notice. Oh, there it is. Friction. And then realize you have a choice in how your life goes. You have a say, and that's the outcome because the goal isn't to eliminate every difficult thing in your life. The goal is to recognize what's getting in the way so you can choose what happens next. That's where lipstick comes back to this. Let's just use this analogy. Your choice of lipstick is your say, not beauty, not youth, not perfection, not put yourself together so the whole world approves of you. Your say. So look at that little girl again. She wanted the lipstick. She put on the lipstick. She liked the lipstick. She didn't conduct a focus group. She didn't even check whether it was age appropriate. She didn't ask whether she earned it. And she didn't really need anybody else to agree. She had a say. Somewhere along the line, some of us got a little weary about having that say. And some of us gave our say away to expectations or roles or other people's opinions. And sometimes simply to that voice inside our heads, we can say, you still have a say. And then there's the lobster. Well, if you've heard my lobster story, then you know once I spent more energy debating on whether or not I'd get the lobster than the lobster deserved. Should I? Do I need it? Is it too expensive? We're going to cruise tomorrow. I know we'll have lobster. All that negotiation about dinner. Suddenly I realized it's not about the lobster. It's about permission. So lobster is permission. I'll have what I want. Not permission to be irresponsible, not permission to disregard everybody else, and not permission to live outside of circumstances and consequences. Just permission to stop assuming that everything I want requires a defense. Permission is experience, to experience pleasure without justifying it. Permission to choose what you want. So these are the pieces of my book. Peace is more expensive than lobster. Friction is what gets in our way. A wake-up call with lipstick is the invitation to wake up and notice it. See the drag is practicing. Seeing the drag. Lipstick is just a symbol of our say, because we get to say. And then return to your say is when you see drag, you actually have a space to look and see if you want to change anything or maybe just notice it. Here's the magic words. I'll have what I want. And this is why these ideas are so important to me in this book. Peace is more expensive than lobster. A wake-up call with lipstick helps you see everyday life in a way that just doesn't make you lose your mind. And we don't confuse a signal with identity. Something's happening, pay attention, but don't automatically make it mean something about who you are. Don't confuse evidence with a verdict. Yeah, okay, you've made mistakes. You've changed your mind. You've stayed too long, left too soon, missed opportunities, said things you wish you hadn't. So have I. The evidence can be real without becoming the final verdict, especially on who you are. And don't confuse an ending with the end. A job ends, a marriage ends, a role ends, the kids grow up. A version of your life you thought would last forever. It just doesn't. Something can be over without you being over because you are still becoming. And maybe that's why I love that little girl. lipstick all over her face, proud as she can be. I don't want to turn her into a philosophical metaphor. She's a real little girl who really got into the lipstick, but there's something in her face that you just don't want to miss. Delight without self-consciousness, before the rules, before she knew what was flattering, before she knew what was appropriate, before she learned what women are supposed to do, before she learned how to collect evidence against herself, before she learned to second guess her delight. We can't go back. And we don't want to. We've lived, we've learned, we do have some wisdom. Maybe we can carry the wisdom without carrying quite so much judgment. Maybe at 50, 60, 70, 20, 30, 40, we get to ask, what do I want now? Not what should I want, not what everybody understands, not what I can justify. What do I want? And then notice what happens next. Because that little voice immediately says, yeah, but might not be wisdom. It just might be friction. So wear sequins or wear sweatpants. Put on bright red lipstick. Or don't wear a speck of makeup. Order the lobster or the hamburger. Whatever you actually want. The point is you choose. That's your say. See the drag, return to say. And when that old voice starts collecting evidence, when a light comes on or something ends, remember, don't confuse a signal with your identity. Don't confuse evidence with a verdict. And don't confuse an ending with an end. You're not done. You're becoming. So maybe it's time you stop debating yourself quite so much. Wake up, see the drag. Remember you have a say. Give yourself permission and go. So that's my wake-up call with lipstick for today. Put on your lipstick and go. And if you don't wear lipstick, just go. So that's going to be our friction in the wild this week. I want you to just look and notice, where are you not going? That if you had the lipstick attitude, you would just go. If you weren't worried about this or that or this or that, what would you just do? So I look forward to hearing from you. I want to know what friction in the wild you're seeing. And I'll see you next week. And be sure and grab the magazine that we've created for you. Go to sandyparkermartinez.com/magazine. Get your copy, share it with the women you know, and I will see you next week. Thanks for tuning in to Pink Lady Posse Podcast, where women go from what now to what's next. Come join us at pinkladyposse.com, where we share community, resources, and tools to support your next beautiful chapter. With love, light, and a little lipstick. See you next time.